climb that
Yes, sir.
incline.
You want to climb and then go, sir.
What to do, sir? I can't jump.
We would also like to welcome CA Durgesh Kumar Kapra, Central Council Member, CA Babu Abraham Kalwayal, Central Council Member, CA D Prasanna Kumar, Central Council Member. We would also like to mark the presence of CA Abhishek Murali, Regional Council Member. He's come all the way here to SARC from Mumbai. Let's all rise up for the ICI motor song. That's better before they settle down. Thank you. Welcoming an august audience on this great occasion to remember, recall and cherish the memories of a great personality is a pride. May we now request CADC Jain, Vice Chairman SARC, to welcome the gathering.
Happy evening to all of you. But I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to this CAP Brahmayya Memorial Lecture. I welcome the dignitaries on the dais, Honorable Central Council members, and CA Durgesh Kumar Kabraji, Vice Chairman Board of Studies, and my other colleague in the Regional Council. In fact, it's special to know a great personality, a legend, CAP Brahmayya, who was the President of ICA during the year 1962-63 and Vice President during the year 61-62, and he was in the Central Council for 5 consecutive terms between 1958-1973. A lot of history which I was not knowing, I am fortunate to know today. And he was an acclaimed and highly respected member of the CA profession who guided ICA and SARC in 50s, 60s and early 70s and around the highest position as President. A legendary professional, a humanist, which everyone tried to emulate his qualities. Brahmayya it is not often in history that an individual can be named with a foresight that can be spot on and apt, and if you have to tell in our language, true, correct in every sense. The gentleman chartered accountant's life and times epitomize his need to create institutions and more importantly build progressive and sustainable value systems that would guide successive generations. The legend was born in 1908 in a village in Andhra Pradesh, and he shares his date of birth with Mahatma Gandhi, October 2. A fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, England and Wales and India, Brahmayya is today known far beyond the eponymous firm of Chartered Accountants, what he founded in 1932. And it was not for money but for love that he trained and shaped the destinies of hundreds of disciples in his own field of auditing and accountancy. Not business alone, but the business of leading a good and respectable life that counted more to him. No other doyen would have lived and would have had so many disciples spread all over the country who would address his awesome and towering personality with an affection prefix Ayya Garu, meaning a revered parent, a rich reward, well deserved. Sri Brahmayya Garu in his career spanning nearly 5 decades adorned many offices, including the President of ICA and the Andhra Chamber of Commerce. Even today, 3 decades after his departure from this world, his name is synonymous with competence and courtesy, proficiency and politeness. In fact, he always coupled economics with ethics and values with values. And today we have an eminent personality who is going to touch upon the ethics and value. And his was a life well lived. His confidence stemmed from his knowledge and integrity. And to put it very simple, I am reminded of a nice quote which goes like this: you must feel sorry if you lose audit for not doing your duty properly. You must feel sorry if you lose the audit for not doing your duty properly, but you should feel happy for losing the audit in trying to maintain highest professional standards, integrity and independence with no regrets. Thank you as I welcome you all.
Thank you so much. May we now request CA Babu Abraham Kalwal and CAD Prasanna Kumar to present a shawl to CA Durgesh Kumar Kapra, Central Council member.
Yes, sir.
Our guest for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. He's the Vice Chairman, Board of Studies, who's come all the way from Mumbai. A big round of applause, please. May we now request C.A.K. Jalpati to present a shawl to Rangachari sir. May we also request C.K. Jalpati Secretary SARC to present a shawl to Advocate N. Venkataraman, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Thank you, sir. CAP Brahmayya was a great leader and he always wanted people to come to the forefront. On this great day, may I request the audience to come to the front and fill up the chairs in the front row, please. I request the young members in the group to come to the front. Let's see who's young. All senior citizens, oh my God. That's great. And the front row. May we request the dignitaries to pay floral tributes to CAP Brahmayya. We think of you today, we thought of you yesterday and day before that too. The fraternity and the family keeps thinking of you, the values you have left behind and the empire you created. All we have is your picture in a frame. Our respects and gratitude grows day by day.
sides.
I want you to be always on my side.
This is a practicing group. I don't have exactly the too much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. May we now request CA G.B. Raman, President D. Rangasamy Academy of Physical Research, to share some experiences with CA Brahmayya.
Presiding Officer Mr. Venkataraman, Chief Guest and the main speaker of the day, Mr. Venkataraman, other Central Council Vice Chairman Mr. Jain, Secretary Mr. Jalapati, our President of Society of Auditors Ramakrishna, and Mr. P.S. Kumar, son of Mr. Brahmayya, and Mr. Ravi Shankar from the firm of Brahmayya and Company, Central Council members, Regional Council members, Sri Radharatnam, our greatest asset for both the organizations which are organizing this particular program. I wanted to say something about Mr. Brahmayya, and Mr. Jain had said most of it, of course. But then I will only share with you certain one of the best things which I had noticed Mr. Brahmayya was his courtesy to people. Immediately to wish everybody whom he meets and when he comes to a meeting, he tries to meet everybody, especially the younger people. That smile which used to be there, whatever may be the situation he was in, he used to always have that smile, and very friendly by nature. Of course, he was very much elder to me, but then he had a lot of mutual affection, I should say. And Mr. Brahmayya was a legend, legend in his profession, because he did certain things which many people had not attempted earlier. The first thing he did was to take as partners people who were not related to him at all. Brilliant people or youngsters whom he identified, like Sundar Raman, Suresh Rao, and so many others. Wherever in Andhra Pradesh, in Tamil Nadu, wherever they are, he used to encourage them, making them partners and give them respect. So that is how the Brahmayya and Company came to be known all over the country. Of course, he became the president of the institute and had a glorious time. And we had certain differences of opinion at certain times, but then that did not in any way affect the friendship we had. He used to treat me as a friend, and that is what I always appreciated and had greatest of regard for him. As a matter of fact, in one of the meetings where I had this, I was in the opposite side to Mr. Brahmayya, and at the end of the meeting he felt that perhaps what I said was correct. So he had the courtesy to come to me, walk to me and say, Mr. Raman, perhaps I owe you an apology. I said, what sir, why are you using such big words? There's nothing, after all, we are trying to find out what is good for the profession, that is all, nothing else. That is the type of person he was, very kind to people, and whatever he felt was necessary for the profession, for improving the youngsters, the knowledge of the youngsters. He did his best. It was a glorious time, I should say, and I should consider myself very lucky to have been able to interact with Mr. Brahmayya on many occasions, listen to him, listen to his speeches, find out what he says, and then also talk to him one-to-one basis and learn things from him as to how you should behave with fellow human beings. That is what is most important thing which perhaps he taught me and many others who came into contact with him. That is Mr. Brahmayya, and we are very happy that every year we are having the Brahmayya Memorial Lecture, and we are very happy also that Mr. Venkataraman has been kind enough to again preside over the function. And Mr. Venkataraman, a brilliant advocate, has promised to speak to her on a subject, value creation, professional value creation. Whereas Brahmayya was a person who created a lot of values for the profession by his being known to everybody and the way in which he impressed people. He had perhaps created that value. Maybe our speaker will be referring to more details about it, not referring to Mr. Brahmayya, but about the subject. But I think that he was one of the first persons who did create a lot of value for our profession and made many people realize the importance of chartered accountants. So it's only very happy that we are here to pay our respects to late Mr. Brahmayya and remember him and have a lecture on a subject which I am sure he would have very much relished had he been alive today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The speciality about G.V. Raman sir's introduction will be from real life experiences presented with pride. Thank you so much, sir. The program will be incomplete without the presidential address by C.A.N. Rangachari, former chairman CBDIT and IRDA. Dice is all yours, sir.
You have put me on the back table.
Hand mic.
When I am able to walk, I should walk.
Mr. Venkataraman.
Mr. Venkataraman, my professional colleagues, the respected members of the Central Council of the Institute, I am greatly indebted to Shiv Kumar once again, who insisted that I should be here. There is a long connection between Shiv Kumar, the Society of Auditors, and myself. There have been great savants of the profession. We belong to a profession which has been glorified and sanctified by great veterans who have shown us in the initial years of the establishment of this institute as what constitutes character and conduct. Very long after the demise of Mr. Brahmayya, in one of those meetings which I had with Shiv Kumar, when I think both Sumir Raman and Suresh were alive, we decided to have annual memorial lectures. And we chose only 2 persons after whom these lectures will be delivered by people who had distinguished themselves in various walks of life. And those 2 persons were Mr. Brahmayya and Mr. D. Rangaswamy. The second mentioned was my principal, and I have known him from October 1955. And soon after I joined Mr. Rangaswamy's office, I had the distinction of walking into Mr. Brahmayya's office, because both Mr. Rangaswamy and Mr. Brahmayya were great friends. They were occupying positions in the central and the regional councils of the institute. That's how this deep bond between Mr. Rangaswamy and Mr. Brahmayya developed, and as students in those days, we were the beneficiaries of such friendship. And that friendship has led to the creation of values in what we consider to be a profession of nobility and service. The only connection that I have between you and these two great people is that I act as a link between that generation of professionals and the present generation of people like you. And if I said that most of you might not have even seen Mr. Brahmayya, I would not be wrong. You have heard about him, you have heard about his firm, you have seen his son and grandson with you, and you have perhaps judged what Ayya would have been in his glorious years as a member of the profession. A person who started practice long before the institute was established. And he has continued to grace the profession as one of its senior leaders. And we are people like me, and G.V. Raman and some others who are here, we have been greatly lucky to have passed through the hands of these seniors. Ladies and gentlemen, we have today before us Mr. Venkataraman, one of the leading lights of the profession of advocacy, to talk to us on a subject which I thought was not only relevant but important: the creation of values in a profession. A profession, to be called so, must have some rules, some regulations, and some objectives which the members who practice it must follow. And in some instances where these professions have existed, administration and governments have intervened and have chartered them to follow a certain path of conduct and regulations. So we are members of such an indentured profession. A profession which was in existence in the early 30s, when people were called government accountants and registered accountants, and who from 1st of July 1949 came to be known as chartered accountants. We have set before us a goal to be achieved in what we have set for ourselves to do, to perform a public function. This is one of the very few professions in this country which has an interface with the public. And you are judged in your performance by what the public thinks you are. So, there is an instant feedback from the users of this profession to the professional about his ability and about the merits of his work. Ladies and gentlemen, a profession to be called so does not structify itself. You don't have a profession which continues to follow the same practices for years to come. A profession, after all, is part of a growing society. As society grows, the expectations from a professional also grow. And along with that expectation, there is the feature of accountability, a responsibility which the profession undertakes for itself. The profession undertakes that responsibility to see to it that its followers, its members adopt standards which are laid down by the professional body. So that is the broad conspectus into which I think Mr. Venkataraman will be. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have not discussed with Mr. Venkataraman or with anybody else here what is going to be the scope of his subject of his talk, except that what I saw in the printed pamphlet. But it's a very endearing thought that a professional belonging to an allied profession, an advocate, has considered itself to be important to talk to us not only about our own profession but generally what a professional should do to create a value. And unless a value exists for a profession, and unless a professional, a member of that profession, follows those practices, the profession as well as its membership will die. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether in the presence of the Central Council members, I am being very prudent to raise this issue. We were born as chartered accountants in 1949. I've been a member of this institute from 59, let us say 60 years. 60 years is one run of time during which the entire conspectus of the profession has changed. I do not know whether the institute has realized that yet. Though Babu and others may object to what I am saying, they are perhaps still wallowing in the thought that what got established in 1949 should continue to be relevant today. A profession to be relevant in a community, in a state, has to respond, as I said, to the callings or the needs of the day. Now what, Babu will excuse me if I said that, it is not meant as any criticism, but as one anguish that is coming out of a member of this profession who has been there for 60 years now. What was the expectation of a chartered accountant when we established this institute? He was only to certify accounts and see whether they were true and correct, later modified, true and fair. What is the expectation of the community today from a chartered accountant? I know the community expects a chartered accountant to be a dispenser of justice. They think that if a chartered accountant looks into an account, a set of books which are, I don't know, very many of the people today don't have books at all. They are all maintained by machines. And our people, I don't know, it is a comment on the growth of the profession. People who are apprentices now, they don't know what vouching is, what posting is, what is maintenance of account. If you went and asked a student today in this profession to write accounts, he will not know that. He does not know how to start to write a cash book or post it into a ledger. He says, what is that, sir? You go to the computer, it gives you. And then from there, so accounts today, final accounts today are prepared from machine-made accounts. And you are not doing anything except compiling statements on the basis of what the Act and the rules prescribe. Now coming back to what I was about to say. What is the present expectation of the community in general from the profession? They expect that any accounts seen by a chartered accountant and certified by him should be true. There should not be any falsification. There should not be any frauds. There should not be any mistakes. The chartered accountant who is looking into a set of accounts is supposed to clear everything from all these problems. He is held responsible for faults that arise, let us say 10 years after he has looked into these accounts. What I am trying to raise as an issue for the profession to think and for the institute to consider is this public perception right? Is the public entitled to hold a chartered accountant responsible for mistakes that happen in frauds that happen in accounts? Is he capable of finding out those things? Is it part of his work? Today, most of you, why most of you? The institute has prescribed the form of certificate saying the chartered accountants are not responsible for the maintenance of accounts. We are only doing test check. And whatever accounts that are maintained or this one produced, this one maintained by the management and certified by them to be the correct and state of affairs. So you proceed on the basis of some work in progress that is placed before you to finalize your work on the basis of which you are finally axed. Has the institute thought of it? And if the institute has thought of it, what action is it contemplating to take? Should you not create a public awareness amongst the government, amongst the people, that the expectation from a chartered accountant in these areas is highly theoretical and impossible to perform? We don't seem to be active in that area at all. So I have mentioned it at some forums. I think Raman also will say that, but then when I go back, Raman will ask me, why did you talk on this? But anyway, look, we are members of a chartered accountants. We have a society which has been created to uphold certain values and certain principles. Are we, first of all, capable of doing it? If we are capable of doing it, are we doing it? Or is the situation like that we cannot do it? If we cannot do it, let us say we cannot do it. A chartered accountant is a statutory auditor. All these now listed companies have to publish their quarterly results within 45 days of the close of the quarter. So there is a great rush amongst various institutions, including big and small, to publish quarterly results within 10 days at the end of the quarter. But do you think that it's possible for a large organization to be looked into by a statutory auditor and this one filed within 10 days? There is a great, fight between big institutions that I have published my results within 15 days or 14 days. And you know, the fight is, or the hurry is not amongst the middle class or the this one companies. It's only amongst the bigger ones. These are the bigger ones which cause you problems later. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to eat into Mr. Venkataraman's time. And the remarks that I had made have come out of the agony that I have felt on seeing some of the newspaper reports and this discussions in the newspaper that a chartered accountant is a know-all and be-all, and beyond him there is nothing which we should look into. In fact, I asked one of my old friends, who was director of our institute also a long time ago, Ashish Bhattacharya, to write on this. He writes every week on one of the other newspapers. The fellow, Ashish, he only mentioned it in passing, saying that there is the expectation on the part of the society at large is very this one. And then I said, why did you not write what you are supposed to do and what you are doing? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think my time has come for telling you that as members of this profession, or members of our allied profession of advocacy, we owe a duty to ourselves first and to the profession to which we belong to conduct ourselves in a very orderly and responsible manner. Unless there is some sort of an introspection amongst us in doing and analyzing what we are doing and what we are expected to do, and we reach the pinnacle of growth in our own areas, the profession will not go. The profession will not add value, and without adding value, it will become totally irrelevant. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for setting a perfect ground for the relevant and important lecture by giving a gist of the objective of the profession, expectations from the profession, responsibility of the professionals, the change in perception over 6 decades, practical aspects of the deliverables, and way forward. We definitely carry the message, do your duty with pride. We also must acknowledge, sir, that you actually belong to all generations. Thank you so very much. A big round of applause. Five to 6 pages of long profile. Our President of Society of Auditors, C.A. S. Ramakrishnan, is entrusted with the pleasure of introducing our Chief Guest, Advocate N. Venkataraman.
Good evening all. We at the Society of Auditors take a lot of pride in hosting this annual endowment lecture in memory of Sri Brahmayya Gauru, who was an illustrious president of Society of Auditors and who was immediately succeeded by our mentor D. Rangaswamy. And as Mr. Raman was mentioning about the courtesy of Brahmayya Gauru, many of us as students have experienced that, and we never knew he is such a gigantic man till we got to know more of him as he became members. So it is very appropriate today. We have got Sri N. Venkataraman, Senior Advocate of Supreme Court of India, to deliver this annual endowment lecture. Fondly popularly known as the NB, he was born in the year 65 and graduated in 89 from Madurai. He started his own practice in the year 2003. He worked under the late C. Natarajan, a taxation expert, and he got designated as, in his 40th year, as senior advocate in the year February 2006. He has appeared in 23 high courts, including 4 high courts in South India, and his area of specializations indirect taxation, direct taxation, international taxation, regulatory matters. He has also appeared before Supreme Court in a leading anti-tax matter and also in the now famous Sabarimala matter. He is also a staunch devotee of Sringeri Mutt, and he is also into a lot of projects establishing Veda Padasala. He has also built a temple of Bala Tirupura Sundari in his native village. He has also delivered a series of lectures in Panchadasi, authored by Sage Vidyaranya. He is a very interesting personality. In fact, as rightly said, it runs so many pages, but more important is such a multifaceted personality. It is only appropriate that he is to deliver today's lecture in memory of Sri Brahmayya Garu, who himself had a lot of varied interest in his illustrious professional career. So may I take the proud privilege and opportunity to introduce Sri N. Venkataraman to this august audience. Sri N. Venkataraman.
सुधा कुंभ विबोध मुद्रा विद्याविराजित करवारिजाता अपार कारुण्य सुधांबुराशिं श्री शारदांबां प्रणतोऽस्मि. Pranams to Rangachari sir, Raman sir, Rajanatnam sir, dignitaries on the dais, Central Council and Regional Council members, my beloved well-wisher Ranganathan sir, senior chartered accountants, and my dear young children, the aspiring chartered accountants and the future of India. Why at all this topic? Professional value creation. Do you need it? And why do you need it? After all, any newspaper you take, any media channel you switch on or switch off, any magazine involving any global information, anything connected to finance, now also connects chartered accountants. For good reasons or otherwise is something which we need to dwell upon. Now, before we actually get into the essentials of professional value creation, because we find a lot of young children here, you must understand what was happening in the last 3 decades and who was responsible for it. The topic is not accountancy's value creation. The topic is professional value creation. It includes a lawyer, it includes a consultant, one who advises intellectually and creates a value addition using his intellectual power or his knowledge or his wisdom over a subject. See, prior to 1991, in fact, I should thank Mr. Ranganathan, who spent a lot of time with me. We travelled through a lot of conversation, debates and discussions before summing up the essence of today's talk. I thank Jayalakshmi, my junior, who sat and drafted the notes several times for my sake. And it's my duty to also refer to the acknowledgements. These are the books which I had gone through before delivering this lecture. Creative Accounting, Fraud and International Accounting Standards by Michael Jones, Corruption in the Global Era, Causes, Sources and Form of Manifestation, edited by Lorenzo Pasqualica and Nicholas Ryder, Corruption Scandals and Their Global Impacts, edited by Omar Hadron and Stephen Mahmood, the weekend that changed the Wall Street, Maria Bartino Roma and Catherine Whitney, and Where the Mind is Without Fear, Rajat Gupta, and of course our proud authors Gurumurthy Sir and Vaidyanathan Sir on their various texts. So this is the basis for whatever we will deliberate for the next few minutes. Let's understand the first phase, prior to globalization. Indian companies more often was handled on a ownership basis. You did not have much of professionally managed business houses. So the investor, the shareholder, the director, the employees who are relatives of the family, this is how businesses were run for quite a number of years. And their at best reach was to ensure they pay lesser income tax, lesser excise duty if he is a manufacturer, and lesser sales tax if he is also a trader. So the idea was to ensure that we will save something in the tax front. In fact, when we inquired, we were talking to a few auditors about it, they all recollected what they did in 75 when they were, like you, auditing for their firm. So, they go to a place like Panruti, which is known for export cashews. And somebody was trying to do the stock taking and was slightly puzzled about the mismatch. Then the owner calls the young upcoming article auditor and says, don't worry, I actually have physical stocks thrice the time. So banks won't be put to any default. So at the highest, it was not with an intention to defraud the bank on its payments. It was not with an intention to swallow the monies of gullible common citizens. It was all confined, maximum, to save taxes here and there. So it was a case of underreporting. That was the era. Max. Now, what happened post-globalization? Or because of globalization? Underreporting transformed into over-reporting. That's the magic. Exactly the opposite started to happen. Precisely. Why? Ownership firms started to become professional firms, professional companies, where you go into the market for public issue, involve the public, involve the stock exchange, involve the credit rating agencies, involve banks for loans. So it became big time business. So money was very critical to run the course. And as youngsters, you should know, as a professional, what do you mean by being a successful professional is keep running every minute, at least to remain in the same place. That's the challenge which you will have to confront if you want to sweat yourself as a successful professional. So that was also the case for a businessman. So it was external investment. So you have to impress an investor. So how do you impress an investor? Not by underreporting, but by over-reporting. So if you can do 1x of over-reporting, and an investor is impressed to invest 3x or 5x, why would you hesitate to over-report? So this is the transformation. All right. How did it become? In phases, 3 things happened. And this is not because of a chartered accountant or a lawyer. I said, all this happened because people with knowledge, wisdom and intellectual power could keep advising things at different points of time in the different parts of the globe. So, what happened now? When things became big and large, people wanted to grow faster. For anything, the trademark or the brand will always be how does US react to a situation. So we must know the US picture before we come down to our own, what we need to do for ourselves and for our nation. After the Twin Tower attack in 2001, stocks fell and consumption started to slowly taper down. US will panic if people don't spend, because 2/3 of its economic cycle is based on spending and 20% of global spending is from that country. In 1 year, in 2002 to 2003, they issued 11 drastic cuts of interest. And in the last 4 decades of US, that was the lowest it was going, to ensure more spending and more borrowing. Now, these are all based on advice. Whatever we say is all creation. Professional, unprofessional will come later. It's all creations. So, how did they do it? One end is to ensure spending sustains and actually accelerates. The second limb is, therefore, they must be allowed to borrow. And therefore, you allow the borrowing in the most attractive terms. And you give a borrowing against the securities, which we will talk a little later. And therefore, because there is sufficiency at the borrowing level, there will be sufficiency in the inflow. So money starts flowing in and out in rounds and in cycles. And what happened? In any borrowing, you will have to give an asset as a security. It's elementary. Now they started to flout it. People whose applications were rejected earlier, were cleared. So, what happened? The credibility of the underlying asset was not the matter of focus, nor was the credibility of the borrower beyond a point of time. And therefore they used a new coinage, subprime. Whether it is subprime or subcrime, we have to see. They called it subprime because the focus was, this is the principle you have to understand as chartered accountants. The focus started to shift on the asset-based accounting creation, finance creation, rather than the credibility of the person who borrows. That was the starting point. So you start pumping a lot of money and start giving it to people who may not be very credible, nor the security which they had mortgaged was considered to be perfectly fine to manage. So because both these things started to happen, it had its own shock. At one point of time, Lehman had to face a situation where the money lent in the first month, they started to receive defaults in the second month. It reached that situation. So, indiscriminate spending of the money borrowed and underlying assets, they all went, all this theory was on the firm footing and belief that the underlying securities, which is given as a security the borrowing, will keep appreciating. That's the philosophy of the whole network was working on that basis. That whatever is given will multiply 10 times, 100 times. So, because initially property prices were skyrocketing. So that was also created, a euphoria. So they thought 10 will become 1000 in say 3-5 years, 10 years. Very similar to Nambavur Tekmaram concept. How people invested in teak plants. Something very similar to that. So this was the situation. Defaults started to accelerate. Now comes the intelligent handling of the situation. How did they handle the situation? So they started, a roadmap of this nature was drawn. The first transaction is nothing but a simple, plain, vanilla loan of lending, borrowing and repayment. It's a simple loan. Now, they realize it is capable of a default. Because money has already been lent. You can't go and chase and pick money. It's not that easy in a place like US. So, you have to now sell this loan as a product. That's the next stage. So, convert a loan into a saleable commodity and give it some good name, some bond, some derivative, call whatever you want. All avatars can have any numbers. So, what you do actually is convert the loan into a product of sale. First mutation. Now the second mutation is convert that product of sale and cover it up with a risk. Involve an insurance company. So risk, de-risk, keep that cycle growing. Third phase, spread the risk. Start collecting as many partners as possible to the point. Expand it across continents. And finally, allow even to gamble. That's the climax. So, an ordinary repayable loan mutates into these avatars. And what is the underlying confirmation? Some underlying security against this loan, whose price now should not appreciate only to meet the loan obligation. It should meet the obligation of the derivative, meet the obligation of the risk, meet the obligation of the gamble. It's like progressive geometrical multiplications. Somebody was saying, today there's a service tax matter going on in the Delhi High Court. So we had the IBA and all its important bankers, huge meeting on how to handle progress coming on the 14th. Casually a bank was saying, the derivative market today in the world occupies somewhere about 80 to 90 trillion. Which economy can hold it if it goes for a toss? 90 trillion is what they estimate this. One of the bankers, a CFO for a leading bank, was saying today afternoon in the meeting. So this is the picture, big picture. So this is all happening. What did an accountant do? They followed two principles to reach this message to the world. They followed a concept called creative accounting. Accounts like creation. We can have value creation. Now you start account creation. That's one method they followed. And second was the impressive accounting methods. These are the two methods originally invented by them. Now what do you mean by a creative accounting? Simple. You have a liability, then now you sell it as an asset. On to whom do you sell? You sell it to a special purpose vehicle. Closely held somebody. So push this as a product of sale into that company. So what happens to your balance sheet? It becomes an asset. Once you clear the liability and convert it into an asset, there is no space for you to recycle the bill. And keep doing this any number of times. When you can push 2 liabilities into 2 assets, you can push 2000 liabilities also into 2000 assets. It's not a big deal. So it was cyclic. Layer after layer after layer. So the starting point was, this is what they call it as creative accounting, converting a liability as an asset and make people believe that this is something which they are going to. What is the asset? A liability. And what is that liability? Against a security. What is that security? Nobody knows. So this was what was happening in a big time basis. When it started to fail so drastically, then they resorted to this impression accounting. What do you mean by impression accounting? Say only the good things in bold letters in your notes and underplay things which are bad. Or even if you are so bold, either report it vaguely, or if you are super bold, don't even report it. So you will see a rosy balance sheet. Now if there is a big issue that all of you have to be, we have to be very responsible in somehow making the disclosure happen, then you put it in the most difficult technical language, and somebody reads who do not know whether it's positive or negative. That's one method of impression accounting. The third resort was, whenever you have a gloomy picture, refer to the gloomy picture and start saying you have a wonderful future for the next 10 years. Who is there on the day of reading the balance sheet? Keep projections and say all this will all be tied up over a period of time. If you still can't manage even that in your balance sheet, the last resort they started to make is indicate what has gone bad and start condemning the environmental conditions and say that it's all act of God, beyond our control, things are happening, and wash it. So all these are part of the mechanics. So it's sustained, and how long can it sustain? To what extent can it sustain? So the whole world of this conversion into, see, in a stock, the company's credibility to perform is the underlying effort. But in all these instruments, it all depends on, you can call it in the most complex form, if you put it in the common sense understanding, what is the underlying asset? What happened? See, somebody showed a small tea plant, teak plant. And what did he say? After 25 years, you will own, if you want 2 teak trees, will multiply to this many lakhs. And it went on, the capability of an imagination, of each one of the abilities to imagine. Some stopped with half a dozen teak trees. Some visualized a teak garden. Some visualized a teak forest. Some visualized a teak valley. What is the underlying asset? Whether it is teak plant or not itself, it's doubtful. They showed a teak plant. Now, same thing, corporate banana. It will sell. Corporate apple. What do you mean by corporate apple? It will look like a pumpkin. Assurance. When? After 15 years. So we'll all rationalize, hey, come on here, it's 7 times bigger. These fellows should be given the time to invest and then allow the tree to grow. All this will give a big lecture. Nobody ventured to say corporate paddy or corporate wheat in the size of a drumstick. Because all of us know about paddy and wheat. But when it came to corporate apple or a corporate banana, it's happened. So, when it fails, the job becomes even more tougher for professionals to handle. And it's all failing everywhere. So, this is the basic backdrop. Now, in this backdrop, what are the lessons we can learn? See, there are three models. Two have virtually outlived, and we are now in the third model. And as young professionals, it's also for you to understand how we are going to cope up and handle it. Now, the first model was the Chinese model, where state controlled everything. So, even to talk to your parents, you need the permission of the state. It was so regimented. But they also understood growth cannot come in this form, and therefore they allowed capitalism in the mid-segment of business. State had the control. The ultimate citizens were under the control of the state. But the segment of economy has to move on the path of progressive capitalism. This was one model. But when it started growing, Chinese authors in these books have written it's failing because it doesn't reach the citizens the way it has to. And the basic morale of the citizens are not good. Now it has reached a situation that unless you have a connect with a powerhouse in governance, you are not assured of a happy life. In fact, two of the American Chinese who wrote on this made a survey. They went and spoke and understood the lifestyles of Chinese residents in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, in various South Asian nations, and compared their attitudes and said the deceptiveness and the mind to corrupt is far below for those Chinese living outside China. So the country has therefore some problem. This is one model. Now the second model was the typical old American capitalist model, which was a wonderful model as long as it remained as a capitalist model. What do you mean by a capitalist model? It starts with the confidence. See, it's one country which doesn't believe in caste, doesn't believe in color, it doesn't believe in religion, it doesn't believe in anything. It believes in the enterprise of the individual. Whether it's money or knowledge or resource or capability or connect or power or influence, whatever it is, it gave you the opportunity to progress. So you must have confidence, then you must do fair play, build the trust of the people with whom you interact, and create an economy which grows. These are the basic ingredients of capitalism: integrity, fair play, trust, and reasonableness in the business. Ultimately, you should be faithful to. I had the opportunity some time back, somebody, the liability, the total overall liability, or the loans and everything put together is say 5 lakh crores to be paid. So a board meets and it is presented before the board. 1 lakh we have ready to pay. And with our ability to do the business, we will be able to pay 2 more lakhs. So how do we cover the balance too? So the chairman immediately says, let us divest the stocks. Let's invite somebody to participate. We can't take this risk beyond 3. We should liquidate, pay the money to the bank. Somebody else as a discussion says, why? When we can reach 3, why not we take the little more effort to ensure that we pay the 5? And the answer he gave was, no, it's not possible. Because if it is my money or your money or our money, we can play with it. This is shareholders' money, we are accountable. So we can't risk ourselves beyond paying back 3 lakh crores. So the balance 2 lakhs has to be divested. Bring a partner. So it is this type of a call which, as you professionals, when you are consulted, should be in a position at some point of time when you grow. So you had it, see, people have invested, so you can gamble if you want. But should you gamble or not? That's the call you will have to take. So this is a typical capitalist model. Now, when we gave way to this global model of globalization. See, as children, don't have a prejudice to globalization. All of us here, most of us here are beneficiaries of globalization. So there are a lot of positive aspects in globalization. But bear it in mind, globalization is like a pair of shoes. You should, when you get into your house, you should take it away and keep it. Not get into your house with a pair. Then it ruins you. It may be the biggest, wonderful car you have, but you still can't keep your car in the middle of your house. It has to be only in the garage. You must, whenever you enjoy or be part of globalization, understand its limitations and then operate. You will be successful. So what happened? This was not the philosophy when globalization was spread. They never indicated the limitations. They started indicating it only post-2008 through several documents of international standards. So between 1990 and 2018, nobody said anything about it. So what did globalization do? It encouraged more and more of consumerism and more of liberalism. So values, ethics got destroyed. That's the point which you should understand. Why did it all happen? See, suddenly world has not changed. Suddenly auditors or lawyers or professionals did not change their color and coat. It's all happening, and why it is happening and how it is progressively happening, you should have an idea. So it is because of globalization where all this impressed. What happened in one of the biggest companies, which is still in the court? What happened? That company was competing with 5 more people in the same business. Huge difference. Somehow, the managing director or the main shareholder thought we should do something extra. And what did he do? All that he did was, to impress the investor, he started to print his own passbooks. That's all. Nothing more. When he wanted the bank account, he said, this is the bank account. He wanted any financial records, he said, this is the financial records. Only to ensure that he is also into the big league. How do you think he would have thought all about himself? So, this is exactly where we are. So, globalization resulted in the consumeristic attitude. What do you mean by the consumeristic attitude? I'll come to it in a minute. This was the emerging picture. Ordinary, a fellow who thought he should save some tax, now is doing creative accounting. So, first stage of this is the financial impropriety. Then you get used to it. Then it becomes a financial fraud. Then you have to sustain in it. Then you connect, it becomes a financial corruption. This is exactly what these authors say. This is the scale. All over, see, there is no difference. No country is different from the other. You have to have all the three as a necklace for whatever you have done to sustain. People are asking, why should government bail out? Why did America bail out? 1 trillion was what it put into the market in 2008. Why? Because it has to sustain its own name, its own people, and its global image. So these were the compulsions at every periodical time. All these things happen. In fact, Bhargava, one of your chartered accountants who gives short YouTubes, put it in an absolute common sense understanding. He said, see the regulator, and beneath the regulator you have 4 verticals: the nationalized banks, the private banks, the NBFCs, and the cooperative banks. And today what happened? You have cases of financial fraud being pursued in all the 4 segments. You have all the names for public banks. You have the S Bank for private bank. You have the ILF case for NBFCs. And you have the present PMC for the cooperative banks. So, this is exactly what is turning out to be finally. And they say, now we'll come to the second pitch, something which we need to understand. The lessons to be drawn. what has this left as imprints in our minds? All these authors use one particular terminology. They use the expression called anomai, A-N-O-M-I-E. M-I-E. They say, what do you mean by this anomai? Anomai is because of consumeristic culture, keep consuming to sustain. The pride in life is showing to people that you are a big consumer. That's the essence of life. In one shot, it kills all your traditions, all your values, all your culture, all your system, your religious practices. Everything is buried. World will measure you only in terms of what you possess and what you show. This is the substitution that it has taken us into. So this substitution of enemy, the first, what we were calling it as greed, these people call it as the unlimited desire and unlimited greed in human thought, human conduct and human action. So, if it is individual, it's your care. You win or lose, it's your headache. It's your personal call. So you can leave it there. What happens is what they say. It starts impacting the society. So you translate this into the society and it finally reaches the nation as a whole and becomes the national goal. Anomai is nothing but incredible desires and incredible greed of making everybody most prosperous. Make everybody enjoy everything. Right, left and center. Everybody has every right to enjoy everything in every way possible. So this is the standard you fix as a citizen of a nation and put it on the nation's agenda and it becomes the policy of the nation. And it finally lands into the laps of onto the lap of people who are governing the system. It becomes their own agenda for them to survive and win elections or lose elections in a democratic setup. Any part of the world which runs on democracy now is pitched with this disease of anomai. So, in short, what you call it, greed as a national goal, found to be legitimate. But you don't find the means and ways to reach it for everybody. That's the challenge which each one of you as professionals are going to face. This mismatch. You have set a goal that everybody should have everything. And it's a very legitimate desire. Now, the ways and means to reach are not that wide. So, asymmetry starts happening in the economy. And the mismatch and the gulf becomes wider and wider and wider. And therefore, illegitimacy gets the approval and nod. So if you have to do it, there must be a mix of legitimacy and illegitimacy to progress faster than the rest. This becomes the combination. What proportion you combine? Intelligent minds have to collect the data in whatever way it has to be presented. So this is what is actually happening all over the world. Legitimate goal allowed to be pursued in an illegitimate way. And therefore, impropriety, fraud, and political corruption or financial corruption necessarily needs to be in a league. Otherwise it can't. You need all the three has to be on a straight line for this to happen. So it is irrespective of governments, it is irrespective of nations. This is a common phenomenon. Now, therefore, what is that we can do as professionals? That's the last segment. What can we do to ensure that this is something from our end? See, there are many verticals for this problem. You think of it you are not alone. As chartered accountants in a big company auditing, you are not alone. You have the regulator to monitor, you have the institute, you have the whistleblower, you have the independent director, you have the governing body, you have ever so many other things to handle. And you are one in that spec, in the whole system, from one end to the other end. So, can you play something on your own in a big system which has to be aligned internally, or you compelled? That's one question which people have to necessarily ask. But therefore, which vertical? For example, somebody was telling us, in fact, Sam was talking about bank audits. Very simple. It's an information I do not know where. See, it's like this. It looks that on several occasions, the window period given to complete the audits of a bank and then come with the final accounts is so short. Between the date of appointment of the auditor and declaring the results, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. What can you do? However best your brains can be. So these are all systemic issues, which is one vertical which needs a deliberation at a different point of time. What can we as professionals think and do at the highest? So with so many young children here, I thought I should pitch that point of professional value creation. Please understand, the first step we need to see, professional value creation is not just maintaining your books. It's all there, no doubt about it. But something beyond, at a conceptual framework. How closer or proximate you are to anomaly is the first point you have to think in your mind. Where are you in the picture? And how close or proximate you are to anomaly, or how farther away you are from anomaly. Does your management, does your firm, you as an auditor personally, are you in a position to assess and take a call? I have to tread the path of greed as part of the national goal and achieve it, or let me grow in the phase that I am ultimately happy and peaceful, the way I want to, with the best effort possible, going geometrically or growing arithmetically or growing astronomically. It's a call which each one of you have to be clear, because hereafter you're going to face more of such systemic issues cropping up every day. There will be the obligations, the duties are turning into obligations are turning into rights are turning into commands. All this is happening in the undercurrent. So, the first lesson, how do you protect yourself from anomaly as an individual? See, when you go into a cricket field as a batsman to play, are you not supposed to put a helmet? Put your pads, put your thigh guards to protect yourself from a seam bowling, even to play a normal stroke. So, for any game which you play, there are rules of the game. So, when you are gripped with this disorder called anomaly, how do you insulate and how do you protect yourself from that? For which we need to go back to our culture, our traditional values, to see what have they said about money, wealth, status, power, influence, etc., etc., etc. See, Goddess Saraswati is celebrated as the goddess of enlightenment. Goddess Lakshmi as enrichment, and Goddess Parvati or Durga as empowerment. So you translate this, it becomes wealth, it becomes power, it becomes status. Now the question is, are you able to see this in a divine form? Or I'm not preaching Vedanta or philosophy here, no, not at all. I give you the assurance. This is not for that. But certain basic values of how to understand unless you understand these basics, how do you handle money? All this comes down to one question. See, in future, you may be vested either with power or with capacity to influence or with wealth or with all the three, depending upon what is written to you. So, how do you pursue it in your life as a goal? So, they say money creation can be in three forms. Create it ethically and spend it for you and for causes. That's one form of creation. 2. Create it ethically with absolute aggression and enjoy it yourself. 3. Create it unethically, doesn't matter. Plunder, rob, kill, inflict pain. Take it and do it for your own enjoyment. This is the traditional way of our system classifying money earning. And they attribute a quality and attitude to each. More and more of ethical earning and more of collective spending or spending for the causes, they call it as the sattvic earning of wealth. The aggression mode for your own aggrandizement, which is now the anomic situation partially, they call it the rajasic type of wealth creation. And plundering, inflicting pain, injury, and somehow suck money, blood as money, they call it the tamasic way of wealth creation. And today, world order is either sticking or closer to it, or even base is on the tamasic form. Come what may, you have to possess. And the authors give two good reasons for that. As accountants, you should know that. They say, no financial fraud has ever been proved as a crime in any part of the world, in a court proceeding. Big time fraud has some way it is difficult to prove a financial fraud as a crime. Now the second aspect which they say is, there is no stigma attached to, even if you are a defaulter. Society is able to understand, hey, come on, yeah, he is doing this, he is trying to climb up life in his own way. So there is no question of a social taboo or a social infliction anymore in any part of the world. So the mind to gamble or risk is more in it. It encourages and induces to you to do the tamasic and not the first two. The trend, the mind trend. So basically, the first professional value creation, or rather the basic one important value creation, which as youngsters you should have it in your mind is, how do you respect, relate and associate money in your life? It all starts there, and start it at a young age. So because it will take you like a tsunami in a given opportunity, the more you become brilliant, the more you become wisdom oriented, the opportunities that throw up and confront you becomes unimaginable. So you have to stay on course. You have to hold the reins. So what is, at this age, develop that attitude? What is your perception to money? How do you relate money as in your life? Kadambari is an important poetry in our Sanskrit text. People who have to acclimatize themselves in the language, it's one of the kavyas, and they are recommended to read the final one of them is this. And Banabhatta was done that. There is a guru called Shukanasa. So a young prince who is going to be anointed as a king goes to Shukanasa and seeks an advice, I am going to be a king, you are my guru. Can you advise me as to how I should lead my kingdom into future? Shukana sir said, have this in mind. Whether it is power or wealth or knowledge, Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati. You are a king. You have two ways of handling it. You can handle it as a trustee or a custodian. Or you can assume yourself to be a owner. Choice is yours. If a bank manager thinks the money that is deposited in his bank is his own, what happens to him? He says, have that dispassion, even if you earn. Shri Asim Premji recently wrote one article on Mahatma Gandhi. I don't know how many have. You go and download it and please do read. It's a beautiful article by, after all, a man who has lived by that. He makes a statement. Money earned beyond one's use. That beyond one's use is a quote. Beyond a man's reasonable use has to be respected as a money in trust. Or else he could not have created a trust for 10,000 crores in India just for the sake of educational purposes. To divest his own holdings, it's not somebody's shareholder's money. To divest and create a corpus for 10,000. So he is entitled to make that statement. And therefore read it. So, custodian values. Whether you may be tomorrow a minister, you may be tomorrow in such an influential position in governance. Who knows? Can you carry that in your mind as a trustee or as a owner? So he puts it to the young prince. If you decide to be a owner, if you are a trustee, Goddess Lakshmi guards you with her wealth and guides you how to spend. But if you become an owner to that wealth, saying that it's all my own earnings, you must understand Goddess Lakshmi has a set of her own kin. She has inherited some of the attributes of people who are born along with her. So, you will also inherit those attributes as a owner. So the prince asks the king, can you tell me what are these attributes? So the king says, Goddess Lakshmi has taken the aspect of crooked. See, he's a poet. It's a poetry. It's a kavya. So you should take that esoteric sense or its beauty. Understand the essence. So he says, she has inherited crookedness from the moon. And from the horse, Uchchaswaras, instability in mind. From Kalakuta, Moham and Madam. And from Kaustubamani, hardness. So if you want money as it's mine and I'll have to do it this way, hardness, crookedness, instability, moha and madam will also be part of it. This is an attribute, it's inevitable you will have to face it. And he says to the young prince, if you inherit it, how will you use it? This is how you are going to use it. And again puts it in a poetic way. He says, first victim will be you will become less and less compassionate in life. You will not be a compassionate person. He says, when the Abhishekam is performed on you as coronation ceremony, it will take away your compassion. That's a poetic way of putting it. Compassion is the first loser. And three more impurities in mind will start settling as a hard rock. Your crown will hide your age and hide that thinking that you will one day hit old age. And the white umbrella will conceal paraloka. and the chamara will wield away the truths from you. And finally, you will end up with multiple vices. You will enjoy people speaking about you, and you will issue commands and not listen to good advice. So, ownership of wealth results in all these attributes inherent to wealth. So, you need to take a call as an individual. If you understand money in this form as a trustee, you will be gifted with more. See, money always moves from one place to another. That's the quality of money. Every literature says, in every religion it says. Therefore, it can't stay permanently. So, how best you make use of it benefits you and benefits people around you and benefits your thought process about money. So, value creation. In this 45 minutes, I thought I will emphasize insulating yourself from the dreaded disorder of anomie. Don't get you anywhere near it, and that can possibly help you, for which go back to the original principle, capitalistic principles. Integrity, fairness, reasonableness, confidence, and definitely not to cheat. Go back, leave the consumerism, leave the liberalism, go back to the traditional way of a capitalist thinker, and invest your time, invest your knowledge, invest your wealth towards progress. This is exactly, and when you find the time, please read the book of Rajat Gupta, The Mind Without Fear. Let's not take a call what he did it or what he did not do it, but the way he has put it, the advice which he gives is so close to our classical thinking. And definitely download the article of Mahatma Gandhi and of Asim Premji and Mahatma Gandhi as youngsters. It will help you a lot to have some sort of a comprehension. I must thank Shivkumar, and more importantly, to speak on the memorial lecture of Sri late Brahmayya, a legend, a doyen, and a firm which has started decades back, which has stood the test of time. I consider it a very great opportunity, and I should thank the senior most, Shangachari sir, and our Rajanathan sir, and Raman, and Ranganathan sir personally for helping me out in this to speak. And I would finally dedicate as a personal dedication this talk to two inspiring souls in my life. My father, who was a retired income tax officer and who lived a life of total integrity. And he retired in 84 and he died at the age of 93 last year. So peacefully, was so active till the last moment. And even after 20 years of his retirements, chartered accountants, whenever he met, used to come and speak to him and used to come and speak about him to us. That's the quality which has inspired me, seeing him all through. And the second person is my own senior, Mr. C. Natarajan, senior advocate. When he stood up in courts, judges never verified the affidavits or the pleadings to find out whether what he's saying is correct. They just listened to him and they delivered judgments. So, please, the second, besides money, the second important value which you need to create in yourself is be in the company, be in the radius, be in communion, and be in the connect of people who have strong ethical values in the profession. These people should inspire you, and you find out how are they still successful. Never come to the conclusion you can succeed only by unethical way. That's wrong. There is a space for them, no doubt about it, but there is also a space for people who have slogged and come up in life. Millions of examples can be shown. So, be in the radius. Read the autobiography of great people. That's the third. In our profession, I always say, please read M.C. Chagla, please read Nariman, please read Nani Palkiwala's speeches. For our profession, they are all the Bhishmas. Now, in your profession, you will have such people. Read the autobiography of great people. These three things will mold you and take you a long way. Thank you so much for this great opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Starting from the days where we had family business enterprises, deploying the monies with good business intents, resulting in underreporting, travel to the current era where people want to show themselves big, resulting in over-reporting, Adomai, the show of culture. Key elements of the economic flow, sustaining the spending pattern, cut in the interest rates, ensure borrowing in attractive ways, relaxation in lending principles, relying on the asset appreciation, resulting in defaults, cycle of creative accounting, impression accounting, optimistic projections, and attributing reasons to beyond control points. Touching upon the state-controlled model, coupled with progressive capitalism, capital model, and traveling to globalization. Practical issues in profession, sustaining and upholding the value systems in line with our tradition, the mantra or the secret to handle the knowledge, power, and wealth, keeping in mind the reality of the permanence, to be a custodian of surplus, connecting it to divinity. Thank you for the memorable memorial lecture, a relevant topic on the memory of a man of values, extraordinarily delivered. Thank you so very much, sir. We definitely take away the message to connect and get inspired with people of great values and the values with pride. Thank you so very much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. May we now request CAPS Kumar to present a memento to our chief guest. May we request Kumar sir to present a memento to Rangachari sir as well.
May I request Kumar sir to present a memento to Subhash. May we now request C.L. Ravi Shankar to propose the vote of thanks.
Dignitaries of the dais, dignitaries of the dais, Central Council and Regional Council members, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks for the P. Brahmayya Memorial Lecture. I thank Advocate Venkataraman, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, for a very lucid talk on professional value creation. It has been a well-structured lecture going into the roots of the value system. The concepts were well articulated, and I'm sure it's given us all a lot of food for thought. You had us spellbound, sir, with your speech, with your lecture today. The concept of Anamai will stay with us for long. I thank respected CA N. Rangachari, for former chairman CBTT and IRDA for having raised the function today. He came in specially from Bangalore for this function. Thank you, sir, for your introductory observations. This set the ball rolling for the deliberations of the day. I thank the President and the Managing Committee members of the Society of Auditors for having conducted this lecture. I thank the Vice Chairman, Secretary and Regional Council members as well as the Central Council members for having graciously consented for the use of this hall today for today's function and for having spent the evening with us. I thank CA G.V. Raman, President, and the office bearers of the D. Rangasamy Academy for Physical Research for their support. A special thanks to my teacher, Mr. R. Shivkumar, for all the help and support and encouragement that he has given us. I thank each one of you for attending today's lecture and making it a very pleasant evening. Thank you.
Let's all rise up to the national anthem. You'll have to sing it ourselves.
Suddenly it becomes